It was the documentary that captivated America, and the shocking moment no one saw coming.
So obviously I want to ask you about the cadaver note, the famous cadaver note.
In HBO's 6-part series, The Jinx, suspected killer Robert Durst excuses himself to go to the restroom, forgetting his mic is still on. Then says the words that would finally lead to his arrest for murder after 15 years.
There it is. You're caught. What the hell did I do? Kill them all. Of course.
The truth comes out sooner or later, but never did I think it would come out of this dirtbag's mouth. But it did.
Anyone who watched The Jinx will recognize former District Attorney Jeanine Pirro, whose dogged persistence helped finally untangle Durst's web of lies.
Oh, God, the B is exactly the same. Son of a bitch.
Now Jeanine has written a book revealing new details about the case, appropriately titled, He Killed Them All. It's a story that really began one cold January night in 1982, when 29-year-old med student Kathleen Durst returned to the South Salem lake house she shared with her millionaire husband, Robert, and was never heard from again. Most people believe she was murdered, but no one knows exactly what happened. What is known is that 3 weeks before she disappeared, Kathleen Durst actually went to the ER after a violent fight with her husband.
And he even admitted that, yeah, I pushed her, I hit her, I slapped her. It's just classic domestic violence. That was my thing. I started the first domestic violence unit in the nation. So I said to myself, you know what? Her family deserves an answer. They deserve closure, and I'm going to help them get it.
So when Pirro found out about the cold case in 1999, she quietly reopened the investigation. Right away, she found disturbing details. Kathleen's husband didn't report her missing until 5 days after she disappeared.
Kathleen Durst disappeared off the face of the earth, and the police were willing to just think, she probably ran off with another man. You know how these sluts are.
It didn't help that Robert had longtime friend and unofficial family spokesperson Susan Berman back up his story to the press. The active missing persons investigation lasted just 10 months. For the next 18 years, the case stayed ice cold. That is, until Jeanine Pirro was elected the first female district attorney of Westchester County where the crime took place.
I made the decision to reopen the case because I connected with this woman. She was in medical school about the time that I was in law school, and I knew that a woman weeks away from graduating from medical school is not just going to run off with another guy whose name no one knew, who no one could say, was even in her life.
Based on a new tip, divers searched the lake outside Robert and Kathy's old home. Unfortunately, it turned up nothing. But Pirro and her team quietly began pursuing other leads. In particular, they want to talk to Susan Berman. But then, someone on Pirro's team leaked the investigation to the press.
And before you knew it, Susan Berman was dead.
One shot to the back of her head, executed in her Beverly Hills bungalow just 2 days before Christmas.
Of course he killed her too. She was murdered to silence her. She was murdered because she knew too much. She was murdered because he knew we were coming.
But the only real clue is an anonymous letter sent to Beverly Hills police, the word Beverly misspelled, and a simple one-word message next to her address, cadaver. At the very least, Robert is a person of interest. There's just one problem: no one can find him. Then, nearly a year later, in Galveston, Texas, the dismembered body of 71-year-old Morris Black washes up on shore. Everything except his head. It doesn't take police long to find their killer. Morris Black's own neighbor, a mute woman named Dorothy Siner, aka Robert Durst in disguise. When detectives track Robert down, he still has the bow saw used to cut up Morris in his car, along with Morris Black's ID. It seems like an open and shut case. But at trial, Durst's high-powered attorneys argue self-defense, that Morris Black attacked him. There was a struggle over a gun, and it went off. Without a key piece of evidence, it's his word against the prosecution.
What did they not have in Galveston? They didn't have the head. The medical examiner could determine forensically whether the gunshot was an accident or whether it was execution style, like Susan Berman in the back of the head.
Incredibly, the jury bought it. And after 6 weeks of testimony, Durst was acquitted of murder.
I think it's sad, and you have to say to yourself, what has happened to justice in America?
While 2 unsolved murders of women close to him still hung in the ether, Jeanine Pirro worried justice would never be served. And that might have been true if Robert Durst himself had not insisted on doing the jinx, so that, as he said, he could finally tell his side of the story. But why? His lawyers advised against it. Was it his ego? Perhaps he wanted to be caught. Either way, chances are he could have never predicted how this whole thing would turn out. In episode 5 of The Jinx, Susan's so-called adopted son uncovers a letter Durst wrote to Susan years before. On the front of the envelope, in big block letters, the word Beverly is misspelled, just like on the cadaver note. When confronted with the evidence, this was his reaction.
I mean, the writing looks similar and the spelling is the same, so I can see the conclusion the cops would draw, or the writing exemplar person would conclude they were both written by the same person.
And then that unbelievable bathroom confession.
When he finally said, "Kill them all, of course," I said, "Of course you did, Robert. We knew it all along."
On March 14th of this year, just 1 day before the finale of The Jinx, Robert Durst was arrested for the first-degree murder of Susan Berman. He was caught in a New Orleans hotel with a fake ID, a loaded revolver, 5 ounces of marijuana, a latex mask, passports, a map of Cuba, and over $42,000 in cash. He is currently under indictment there for federal gun and drug charges. He should return to Los Angeles early next year to face charges in the murder of Susan Berman. There are still no answers in the disappearance and likely murder of his wife. But in this Crime Watch exclusive, Jeanine tells us what she thinks happened after Kathy vanished.
For 2 nights, think about this, for 2 nights there was a blue light in the basement that neighbors saw.
Pirro's theory? They were the same blue lights forensic investigators used to search for blood.
He was cutting her up in the basement. He was checking to see if there was any blood, if anyone could find anything. But then, as we started digging into the case file, we said, oh my God, there's a collect call from the Pine Barrens in New Jersey, which is 1 million acres of forested land that even in the Sopranos, I mean, the mob used to dump bodies there all the time. And there was a phone call from a laundromat in the Pine Barrens 2 days after she disappeared.
It was 3 days before Robert reported her missing. According to Pirro, professional trackers plan to search the area in the coming months and hopefully, finally, put this cold case to rest. Until then, she vows to remain a thorn in Robert Durst's side.
It won't be done until Robert Durst is convicted and rots in jail. It won't be done until this guy has nothing to do but think about the 3 people that he killed.
Durst is back in court later this month, where he's expected to change his plea to guilty on that weapons charge, which will likely lead the way to Durst's transfer to California, where he will face murder charges for Susan Berman. We will, of course, follow the hearing and bring you the very latest right here on Crime Watch Daily.